folks. Welcome to Roll With It, your RHL podcast, episode number 6 coming up here. This is the podcast that's going to tie in end of last season, the winners from the D1 and D2 finals. We're going to go over it, figure out who they were, analyze the games a little bit here, and look forward to next season. Some of the changes coming up here with new teams, new rosters, and of course some changes coming up for the 2019 RHL winter season. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Such Chand. Let's go and start off the bat here with the two D1 and D2 finals we had last week. Some great games in tap. The D1 finals featured the number 1 seed, High Rollers, undefeated at that moment in time, going against the number 2 seed. That's what she said. As you mentioned in our D1 Finals preview podcast show here, it's going to be a pretty good game because the number 2 seed, that's what she said, has lost both times by a goal or a goal plus empty net to High Rollers, but they haven't had the full roster yet. So this was a game that we could figure out who the better team was, so to speak, in this case. Great game. Game that that's what she said, broke out to an early lead. They widened that lead, and then the High Rollers just weren't able to keep up. So a game where you got to give credit to the team in red. They came out, took the lead, controlled the momentum, scored enough goals, and basically kept the High Rollers at bay, who battled back tough, but not enough there. To me, the key factors of this game were obviously scoring, balanced scoring across the board. I believe Kevin Klimczak had a hat trick. Mazier Fesbaik had a great game in nets. Though I don't think he saw too many great quality shots. I mean, he saw some great shots there, but the better quality shots were faced by his opponent in net, his counterpart in net on the other side by Steve Dorsey. A balanced scoring, deep roster was a difference here. Goals from everywhere. And congratulations, that's what she said. From the High Rollers side, they didn't have quite as much depth on their roster. They fell behind early. They had some turnovers early, and as a result, the puck possession was an issue for them. They weren't able to convert their chances early on, and the quality chances were definitely in favor of that's what she said. They had zone time, they had possession time, and they've had a great game. Steve Dorsey played very, very well. He saw so many quality shots. At the same time, there are probably a couple of goals he'd like to have back, knowing how competitive Steven maybe is in this case. But it was not his fault. He did a yeoman's work there. The sharpshooters from that's what she said just had some terrific shots, some terrific goals in that regard. So a great win for that's what she said. They're now your D1 champion. The number 2 seed comes through to beat the High Rollers. A great season for the High Rollers as well too. They almost went all the way undefeated, but at the end they lost to, that's what she said. So congratulations to both teams for a great game. Now to the D2 finals between the Wheelers, the number 4 seed, and the number 2 seed Hurricanes. A game we talked about here where the Wheelers were actually a slight favorite based upon Kyle and their deep rosters. A game that we felt up maybe a high-scoring affair, but actually turned to be a very low-scoring affair. It was a grind-out game, a game the Wheelers actually wanted. But unfortunately, they weren't able to get the goals early to get that lead. They were looking for the early lead and then to play more of a defensive style and counterattack punch type style. But Hurricanes broke through first, and they were always able to get the lead. I don't believe the Wheelers ever had to lead this game. They always trailed throughout the entire game. But it's always a one-goal affair, seesaw back and forth between being tied and the lead for the Hurricanes. And the late goal from the Hurricanes was a difference maker here as they won 4-3. Late goal, I believe, like 5-6 minutes to go in the second half. Dennis Owen for the Hurricanes had 2 key goals. Actually, Dennis Owen had a hat trick, if I recall correctly, as well too. Kyle Graham, the star player from the Wheelers, also had a great game as well too. So a great job there for him. But I think the Hurricanes did a great job of making Kyle work. They went 2-3 guys on him at once to force him to pass the puck or turn it over. That defensive style worked very well for them because Kyle just couldn't get his full game going. He had some great chances. He had a couple of goals, but they definitely did a good job of neutralizing his chances out there and containing him. And that's why the Hurricanes came through. Fez played very well. And that, Dennis Jimenez played very well. And that's also for the Wheelers. So it was just a situation where the Hurricanes played a much more better defense, and their offense, got the goals they needed out there. The Wheelers just couldn't get the running game going with Kyle enough to get the goals needed out there. So it was a close game, but unfortunately the Wheelers come up short, and the Hurricanes are now a 2-time RHL Cup champion. Congratulations to Dennis Owen and the rest of the team as well too. Great job there. The MVPs were Dennis Owens with a hat trick. Also, MVP from D1 was also Kevin Klimzak, who also at least had a hat trick as well too. So there you go, the D1 and D2 champions from last season, the 2018 RHL fall season. When we come back here, we're going to go and talk about the 2019 RHL winter season coming up next week, actually on Monday. Right back at it again. Go over the changes we have in store, plus some of the rosters, and give you some preview of what we look forward to as well. So don't go away. Coming back more with your RHL podcast. Roll with it. Folks, welcome back to Roll With It, your RHL podcast, episode number 6. Maybe stay tuned as well, too, because later on we're going to have an interview with Dan Ridings from the Roughriders, a veteran player in the RHL League who moved to Puck. Good guy, Dan. Does a good job being involved in the Royal community. Has a lot of travel teams that he puts together or are involved with. Great guy to pick his mind about just the Royal community in general, the Royal game in general. And we'll talk with Dan after this segment here on the RHL podcast. Roll with it. Let's go to the current season that's going to be starting here, the new season starting here, the 2019 RHL winter season. We're going to have 9 teams this season, 4 in D1 and 5 in D2. Here are the changes. Number 1, the Blades of Steel moving down from D1 to D2. They're going to lose some players, and they're going to add a couple players as well, too. So if you want to play in D2, please let me know. They're looking for a couple of skaters. I'm trying to help them out as well, too. So they're moving down to D2 with a new goalie as well, Ryan Welst. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with Ryan Welst. I haven't seen him play yet, but he's looking forward to play in roller hockey with us, in line with us. So Douglas, the goalie from Blades of Steel, taking the season off because of school. So they're moving down to D2 and have a new goalie as well. They're also losing Jeff Babb as well, and Jake Woolery from the roster. So they're going to probably get a couple of new skaters coming in here as well, too. So maybe the D2 stop fits well. They're a tweener team, so that might be a good fit for them in D2 this time around. The other team that we are bringing in, a new team called Eminence Front. It's a team of free agents that I put together with the goalie G Striker, referred to from Pat Riley. Pat thinks very highly of this goalie G Striker. He goes by Strike or Jeff or G. I'm not sure. I think he goes by Strike better. But he's going to be the foundation piece of the new team called Eminence Front. Yes, it's a Who reference. I'm not a Who fan, but the name just rings well with me. And the theme of royalty, Blue Bloods playing in D1. That's the theme behind the Eminence Front here. Color is going to be yellow, and they're going to be playing in D1. Their team is made up of some veteran players. Jeff Babb, Jason Gorey, Chris Hans moving up to play out on the floor in D1. Then we have some new players coming in. Jeff, the goalie we mentioned earlier, Jeff Stryker. Gavin Scott, who's a friend of John Fisher. They're coming together to play, I believe they play a free state if I recall correctly. Also Raymond Kelly and Adam Berger. They also need one more skater as well, too. So if you want to play D1 and they can handle D1, let me know. The team Eminence Front with captain Jeff Babb and goalie Jeff Stracker will begin play next season in D1. They're the new team in D1. Other teams are returning. Same teams. High Rollers are back. I haven't had the roster yet, but I believe it's going to be pretty similar. That's what you said. It's going to be the same roster. Defending champs will be back. And Roughriders are bringing back Nick Weeks, big time winger, big time scorer. So they're going to get more scoring depth. Also adding, let's see here, Caitlin Holzinger, a female player, our first, I believe it's our first female player in D1, which is great. She played sub past season for us, looked pretty good. So love to have more women involved in roller. It's a gender-free league, so please come on and play. She's going to be on the Rough Rider sub-roster as well, too. So Rob Young is back in goal as well, too, along with Sean Klimzak. So they're going to split some time there. So you see Rob back. You see Nick Weeks back. They didn't really drop anybody beyond that. They may have dropped Steve Klopper, but beyond that, they just added players and added Caitlin as well, too. So that's the D1 roster. Should be a fun division. I don't really have an idea of how good Eminence Front's going to be. The key was to get them as competitive as possible. The goalie, Jeff Stryker, is very well thought of, so we'll see if we can hold a fort down for them. but it should be a pretty fun league and four pretty competitive teams. Roughriders have improved, and I believe Edmonton's front should be better maybe overall than the Blades of Steel were last season in terms of depth. So we'll see how that plays out. So maybe a tougher and more competitive D1 division coming up here. D2, let's go to that. The D2 division. There's going to be 5 teams now, as you mentioned. Blades of Steel moving down, so the other 4 teams that remain. Blades of Steel, we mentioned their roster earlier. The Hurricanes are going to be adding Eddie Owens on. Eddie Owens is a good player, but he's just came off surgery. He may not be able to play, actually, but they add him onto the roster just in case he's available to play late in the season as a floor player. So Dennis Owens, their star player, Eddie's brother, the acting captain right now, can only play part-time, so that worked out well for them. They are going to be losing Fez, as I've moved Fez over to the Wheelers, for competitive balance purposes. They're going to have 2 goalies coming in. Tim Longo, new goalie from Free State, going to be playing the early games for them. And Dennis Jimenez, at this point in time, will play the late games for them, so they have 2 split goalies here. They've lost Brent Dawkins from the roster and set Denner off from the roster, but they also had a new guy named Matt Cross the roster as well, too. Matt and Eddie were roster. Matt's a referral, I believe, from Jordan. I think it's Jordan Greenberg, if I recall correctly. I'm sorry, Dan Greenberg. I don't know, Dan Greenberg in this case. I think was the referral in this case, if I recall correctly. So he should be a pretty good player, a veteran player as well, too. So there's some changes on that roster. Losing Dennis for a part-time basis is going to hurt them, but again, they're a top team. Getting Eddie back later on that backhand should help them as well, too. Little big man losing some players. Going to lose Chris Vanderbilt for the season and James William, but they're adding on 2 new players from their pickup group. Sophie Jablonski and JP Landis are joining them. They played in the Constellation tournament called the pickup game we had last week. They look pretty good. They should be able to handle D2. They're also adding Jeff Babb because Patrick Riley having surgery. So Patrick Riley on his D1 team is going to just play maybe 1 or 2 weeks, and he's going to have surgery, be out for at least 6 months. So he's going to be gone for a while. We wish Patrick the best on his surgery and his recovery process, but he'll be the first couple of weeks with us. So to replace Patrick long term, they got Jeff Babb to fill in for them. So Jeff Babb will be on the roster this season. Not much change beyond that in that regard. Same crew beyond that. And then looking at the Stanley Capitals, they're going to have Chris Hans going to take over and be the new full-time goalie for them. That's the only major change in the roster that I see out there. Bill Enright, the previous goalie, had surgery for an injury, so he's out for a long time. Wishing Bill, again, the best on his recovery. But Chris Hans is the new goalie in charge for them. They're going to look for also 1 more skater, so if you want to play with the Capitals, they could want to get 1 more additional skater. Let us know about that. And the other team that we have, that I haven't mentioned yet, the last team, the Wheelers, they're going to be getting Fez back in goal. Monsieur Fez will transfer back to them from the Hurricanes. They're losing their star player, Kyle Graham, who's not on the roster this season, so that's a big loss for them. He was their goal scorer, and he was their main star player. So they're going to come back with more of the original Wheelers roster. Jerry's back this time around, and Fez is back around, looking for 1 more skater as well, too. So pretty similar roster, except no Kyle. They're going to add Jerry instead, and going to add Fez instead, which should help a lot in goal as well, too. Fez one of the top goalies in the league as well. So rosters are pretty tight. Again, they could also use 1 more skater as well, too. So if you want to play D2, let me know, or email us as soon as possible, get you aboard as well. So the Wheelers losing Kyle hurts, but they're going to get Fez back, which helps. So they should even out. Should be a pretty competitive division. I think it's going to be much more competitive around this time around, too, because the Blades of Steel drops down. I don't see a clear-cut favorite here. Little Big Ben may be a slight favorite here, but the Wheelers, Blades of Steel, and also the Hurricanes are all right there, so I don't see a clear-cut favorite. And the Capitals have improved as well, too, so it should be a fun competitive D2 division in this season as well, too. One last word on this season, the format, since we have 5 teams in D2. It's hard to come up with a schedule with 5 teams. So we're going to go with 8 games, but the games will be longer. We'll have 22 and a half minute halves to make up for it. So 8 games, 22 and a half minute halves. So total playing time will be 360 minutes for the regular season for D2 teams. In D1, it'll be 9 games, 40 minutes game. So again, the same math. It ended up being 360 total minutes playing time. The goal is to make sure everybody gets enough equal playing time in both divisions. So a slight change is the fact they're going to have a little bit longer halves in D2 to make up for the one last game for them. Playoffs will be the same, 40-minute games across the board. And also officiating-wise, Jeff Baker's back to be the head referee, and I'm going to be refereeing more as second referee moving forward. And then for the playoffs, I'll bring another ice referee for playoffs. So that's the current plan right now. So you'll probably see me more. So if you want to help score, if you want to stream games, please come and volunteer. I'll be busy reffing, so I won't be able to score as much and or stream as much. But I'd love to have people come involved and help us score and or stream games to get it on YouTube as well too. So there you go. Should be a fun season. Looking forward to it starting up, coming here this Monday. Season goes from December 10th all the way through, I believe, to March 17th or so. We do take Christmas week off, Christmas Eve Monday and New Year's Eve Monday off. So we'll take those weeks off. So that's what we got for you. Should be a fun, exciting season here. When we come back, we'll come back with Dan Ridings, captain of the Roughriders, to talk about the Roughriders and about roller hockey in general. Don't go away. All right, folks, welcome back to Roll With It, our RHL podcast. Joined today by Dan Ridings, one of the veteran players in Roller Hockey League. One of the good guys around there as well, too, and a part of some great travel teams. And the reason why we have a D1 division now. He's brought in a very tough team. Was it the Bunnies and Roughriders, if I recall correctly? Dan,
yeah,
welcome to the show, by the way.
We started as the Puck Bunnies, just to put a team name on it.
There you go. Welcome to the show, and let's talk about your roller experience here. How did you get involved in roller hockey in the first place, or inline in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people, I just kind of started playing in the backyard in the tennis courts with a bunch of kids in my neighborhood. There's a outside roller hockey rink in Frederick, and a buddy of mine said, "Hey, let's join this league." So we did, and then we moved indoor. The Sportsplex in Frederick actually had tile, very similar to what we have in Rockville. And I got put on a team, just like a regular rec league, draft league. And I got put on a team with who's now my best friend, Danny Sweet.
Yeah.
And, I made really good friends with all the guys at the rink, and they just so happened to be some of the best players. So my skill level kind of improved quickly over time. And I didn't start playing until I was 15. So I kind of got a late start, which that would be considered a late start in the hockey world, I guess.
Okay.
And, we did travel tournaments. We played adult leagues, this and that. And then I actually had the opportunity to play. There was a couple semi-professional leagues that I played in called one was PIHA, Professional Inline Hockey, and then that merged into the AIHL, which is the Amateur Inline Hockey Association.
Wow, so professional hockey there. Tell me about those leagues. I'm curious how those leagues come about and how do they function.
So the first league that I played in PIHA, I played for a team called the Maryland Knights. They're based out of Waldorf. Mm-hmm. And, Waldorf has a great sportsplex, great hockey community down there. And the way that it worked is, you practice once or twice a week with your team. And then 2 weekends a month, there was a general location where 9 or 10 teams from the league would get together, and you would just have what they called festivals, where you would play 6 games in a weekend. And it wasn't a tournament or anything like that. They were just league games.
Okay.
And each organization had a pro team and a minor team, so an upper division and a lower division. And I played on the minor league and subbed in for the pro teams every once in a while. But it was a lot of fun. I got a lot of exposure to, serious competitive hockey from the roller side. I haven't played competitive ice other than men's league and things like that, but it was a really good experience. It's always great when you can travel, spend that time with your boys and things like that. And, then I also played in a league, the Major League Roller Hockey, MLRH, which was full check, fighting was legal, full contact.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was pretty wild. So I don't know if you've heard of Etan Chavera or any of those like big name roller hockey guys, but they're, incredibly well known. They're from California. They came all the way here to Laurel, and we had a big tournament there twice, actually 2 years in a row. And, it was incredible being able to to go full speed and just play rough and tumble hockey. I mean, as you know, Suds, that's kind of right up my alley. So it was a lot of fun doing that. And ever since then, I mean, those leagues they migrated to the West Coast where roller hockey is really, really big. And,
Right.
and me and I have, Nick Weeks and a select group of us, we travel for national tournaments at least once a year or so. So we'll play Narch is a huge one, Too Hot for Ice tours. Those are like the big 3 roller hockey tournament series. And we usually try to do at least 1 or 2 of those a year. And it's always a blast.
That's terrific. Now, I obviously been part of the inline scene for a long, long time. What do you think that, you mentioned West Coast having leagues now. What do you think we need on the East Coast in our region to help roller hockey grow? Where are we and where we got to see it grow long term? Not our league, but just the hockey community in general.
Right. I mean, the biggest thing, hockey in the DC, tri-state area has blown up over the last 10 years, and it's really awesome to see. With roller hockey in general, it's hard because we don't have many roller hockey indoor rinks that are, specifically designed for the sport. I mean, there's a great roller hockey league out of the Dulles Sportsplex, which is very similar to what you're doing, where they have a multi-surface or a multi-purpose surface that they, have. I think they've got a gold level. They've got like 3 or 4 silver leagues, and Andre Brooks is the guy running it. I used to play with him in the RHL, and I played there for a couple seasons. But back in the glory days, in Chantilly, Virginia, there was a rink called the Box, and it was essentially just an open warehouse space that they put a roller hockey rink in, and there weren't showers or anything like that. There was designated changing areas and things like that. It was a nonprofit, and it was probably one of the most fun arenas that I've ever been a part of, simply because it was a family environment. You get to know the people that run it. You get to know the people that work there. I mean, they would have pickups on Friday nights, and me and 6 of my buddies, Trevor and Weeks being 2 of them, would drive, on Friday nights, and we would be there until 2 a.m, because the rink manager would leave and say, "Hey, when you walk out that door, you can't get back in. So I trust you," And it was just a great
Mm-hmm.
environment. And, I think that if we were able to find something that was designated to roller hockey, I mean, you've done a fantastic job in Rockville growing that league and making awareness. And, I think that if we had a designated space for roller hockey and it was consistent, I think that it would blow up in this area.
Absolutely. And that's a great point, Dan, because, I've spent years trying to find it add to a ball hockey rink, and even Rockville is not exactly for ball hockey, but, within that space, there is just no ideal space. Maybe a warehouse, looking at getting maybe a warehouse and put a rink in there. There are outdoor facilities, the Germantown,
right,
well too, but those are outdoor. Germantown's being redone, but not again. It's outdoors. You want someplace indoors, a year round to build a league.
Right.
So hopefully something will come along shortly. We're looking for space as well too, but we want to see an ideal location where we can have roller 24/7 and help build it as well too. That'd be kind of great. Cool on the end that one. Now let's talk about the travel teams, Puck Bunnies, and also was it Monarchs? Male Monarchs? Is that the name of the teams that you have traveling?
Well, the biggest travel team, honestly, is the Roughriders, and the only reason that we named our team Roughriders for a few seasons is because Joe Marshall, he's the ambassador of the Roughriders. He put that team together, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and that has been one of my favorite teams to travel with because, win, lose, doesn't matter. When you get to be this age, I'm 31 years old, and, you just look at those weekends as times to get away with the boys. I mean, the Roughriders team is the team that we travel with the most. Now that I have the set of the jerseys for Monarchs, like if Joe Marshall and those Roughrider guys aren't going to the tournament, then we'll enter as a Maryland Monarchs. But Joe Marshall has kind of given me free will to use the Roughriders name as I please. But out of respect for Papa Bear, I kind of don't do that. But like I said, we've been to Buffalo, New York to play Narch Nationals. We've been to Florida to play Narch Nationals. We've done Too Hot for Ice Nationals. I mean, anytime that we can get 8-10 guys together and go down to a tournament within driving distance or even flying, I mean, we do it. It's so fun.
Now, question again, I'm not aware of the answer to this question, but I'll ask you this question: is there a national team? Is there a U.S. national roller team? Because in ball hockey we have I'm involved in ball hockey. We have a national team, and there's national tournaments, and there's a national team as well too. Is there one for roller inline?
There is. So what they like, ice hockey has the IIHF, the International Ice Hockey Federation, and the roller hockey has the same thing. So I do believe it's a few different tournament series, and I follow a lot of the players online. I've played against a lot of them in past tournaments, but there is a national roller hockey team, and there's a couple big tournaments a year where you see ex-pros come out and play for either Canada or Germany or Czech or whoever. And the U.S. team, they've got a lot of big names. There's a couple, not NHLers, but, ECHL, AHL guys. I mean, Steve Oleski, I don't know if you know who that guy is, but he plays. He was an NHLer. He played for the Caps. He played for the Pens. He's played all over, but he actually retired from professional ice hockey. And he travels with a team, Rink Rat, and plays with them in all these tournaments. And I do believe he's played internationally as well. But there's a couple different teams, but for the international level in roller hockey. But it's definitely really cool to watch.
Now, let's talk about the roller game in general in terms of roller puck versus ball. When you played roller, has it always been puck, or has it been ball as well too?
Yeah, it's always been puck. It was funny because actually years and years ago, I think almost 8 or 9 years ago now, we heard that there was a roller hockey pickup in Rockville. So it was on a Sunday. So me, Danny Sweet, Mike Absalom, a bunch of my close friends, we just picked up and went. I think Spike was with us at a time, Mike Cahill, and we showed up and they were playing with a ball. And I guess they at the time were running a pickup games every Sunday, and they alternated weeks from puck to ball. Mm-hmm. And it was actually kind of fun. It's fun to play with the ball, when you're just messing around and you're not really taking it seriously. But, especially for someone like myself and a lot of the roller players out there that go between ice and roller, I think it's definitely better and an easier transition to use a puck, just from the weight, from the shooting, from the stick handling, passing, the whole nine.
Great. Now, one more question on the national front. Would you like to see roller hockey or inline become an Olympic sport? I know that there's talk about ball hockey becoming an Olympic sport. I'm not sure how serious they are about that, but how about roller or inline become maybe a summer Olympic sport?
I think that would be awesome. I don't think that there is enough for it. I don't think there's enough of a presence around the world for it. Yep. And if it would be just like anything else. Like if it was, it would be the U.S. and Canada and maybe the UK that would be competitive, but everyone else would just get dumped on. And I think it would be like, it's the same thing with baseball. I mean, they took baseball out of the Olympics because it was literally the U.S. versus Cuba. You know what I mean? Like that was it.
Good point. Let's talk about RHL, the league you played for us on Monday nights. You've been there for a while there. Again, I mentioned that when you brought in the Puck Bunnies as the first season, the level of play definitely moved up, and your team was the reason now we have established this parameter, this bar, where D1 level teams are supposed to be. So you helped establish that, raise the bar actually. Talk about that first season, and then talk about your teams as you come back and had some tweaks and changes out there. Your RHL experience and what you'd like to see moving forward as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, we heard about the league through word of mouth, and I got a bunch of the boys on board because none of us had played together in an actual league in so long. Some of the boys play strictly roller. Some of the boys, tend to migrate towards ice, and it was really surprising. Like everybody I talked to about it, I can't stress enough how well it's organized, how much as opposed to any other league I've ever played in, you being the owner, commissioner, however you refer to yourself with the league, but you listen to the players and to help make the league better. That's the biggest thing that I really enjoy about it. And I mean, my team is in particular, we change all the time because, some guys are married, have kids, and some seasons they can't make them, make the games. And I know a couple of my friends, including myself, like we play in ice leagues. So it gets hard, but that's why I just bring whoever I can in. And I'm lucky to have such a deep bench of friends, and, everybody's passionate about hockey and really enjoys the game. So, I'll keep doing it as long as I can.
I appreciate that. And you also, Dan's also a good guy. One of the things people don't understand is, I work with captains. We have competitive balance. It's not always easy to have competitive balance with a startup league because you're going to have players all over the board and teams all over the board out there. It's a social league. We get that. So having competitive balance is very difficult. Dan does a great job of working with me to get his teams paired down where they're not, when they're not too stacked, so to speak. And then also taking on players that may not be D1 players, but help them develop. So Dan, you do a good job. We appreciate you working with us in that regards because it's really a hard equation to work out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the biggest thing, that attracts me to hockey as a sport is that whether it's ice, roller, ball, anything, it does not matter your age, your skill level, or your experience. If you're playing D-League ice hockey, there is people that take it seriously, that love to have fun, that appreciate the game, and it doesn't matter. I mean, I tell this story to everybody. One of my best friends, Richard Brogdon, who played goalie for us a few times, his dad, who I think is 51 or 52, did a learn to play at Rockville Ice Hockey Rink with my 29-year-old very good friend. They both did the learn to play and then ended up playing on a D-League team together just because they wanted to get into the sport. So that's the thing I love about hockey.
That's awesome. Now, about the Roughriders in general, and your team. Let's talk about this season coming up forward here. Obviously, roster's changed. We've got some established D1 teams coming up, and the season coming up here starting on Monday. You've got your roster back. You've got Nick Weeks back as well too. Tell me your expectations. And you played these new teams. Most teams are returning here. We have a brand new expansion team coming in, which should be pretty decent. But tell me your thoughts about the new division, D1 division, and how you look next season.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely gotten incredibly well balanced. I mean, when we first started playing in the league, there were obvious teams that, shouldn't have been playing at that level, but you respect those teams for wanting to come back. And I believe it was the Gwendolyn Guns who you asked them if they wanted to split up, and they're like, no, we'll lose every game. We just want to play together.
Yeah.
And I respect that team so much for that. But I mean, there's a ton of talent, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, for us, having Weeks back is huge because he's such a talented guy, but he's also a knucklehead, and I love skating with him. But, David Goodfriend, he hasn't played in quite a while. He, last season was his first season back, so I'm definitely pumped to have him. Mike Cahill. I mean, I wanted to hang on to Mark Milley because I think that he's got a lot of potential, and I've seen him improve over the years. So I wanted to just that's how I got good. I got good by playing above my level for so long. Yes. And that's how I improved. So, throw yourself to the wolves and just make adjustments as you need to. So, I'm definitely excited. I honestly have no clue what to expect. Sean's going to be our goalie for the first few games, and then he's going back into the Army, and then Rob will take over in net for us. So, I'm definitely excited. I'm definitely pumped to see how it unfolds.
Awesome. It should be a great season. It should be a very competitive balance there for you as well too. Now, one thought, put on your commissioner's hat, okay? I always ask the question to all our guests out there. What one thing, a couple of things we'd like to see change in RHL for the betterment of the sport and for the betterment of the league as well too? If we can do it, we'll always consider it, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know how to answer that question. Like, for me, the biggest improvement that you've made is with the referees. I think that, what's the gentleman's name, the older gentleman with the beard?
Jeff Baum. Jeff Baker.
Yeah, Baker. He's incredible. He does a phenomenal job. When you step in, you always do a great job. And I think the teams overall, there's not as much chippiness. You don't really have to call a super tight game. But, the fluctuation in period times, month or season over season, I don't personally get bothered by it. It doesn't really matter to me. I mean, I like just playing as much as we can. I did think it was cool when I first came on and we were playing 3 periods. I know how the time slots change and different teams, as more teams come in, you got to, manage the time a little bit better. That was just one of the things that I thought was cool. But from a changing perspective, I think that as long as the league keeps growing and there continues to be awareness and we keep adding teams and the talent goes up, I'm happy. I mean, coming from where we played when I was 05-06 in Frederick, and ever since then, not having competitive roller within a 30-minute drive, I'm just loving it. So I have no complaints, and whatever you do, whatever decisions you make, I'll have your back.
Well, I appreciate that. Let's talk about the jersey you're wearing right now, I'm talking about NHL hockey here because we're all NHL fans. Obviously, wearing a Capitals jersey. I've got my Miles jersey on. Quick thoughts on the Capitals and then finally breaking through last season for the Cup.
Well, obviously last season was incredible. It was incredible to me for a couple of reasons. I mean, when you go into the Stanley Cup Finals with Vegas and the Capitals, I mean, regardless of who won, it was going to be a great story. The couple of years prior, Penguins win, yay, who cares? You can't deny the talent on that team. But last year was just really special to watch, and it was special to be a part of it as a fan. But this year it's been up and down. I mean, everybody wants to talk about Tom Wilson, but I have so many feelings towards that. It's just not worth going into. But injury prone, Kuzi was out for a few games. Oshie's still out. Brooks Orpik's out. Obviously, we didn't have Wilson for the first 20 games, and we're still riding the top of the Metro. I mean, that to me is dangerous when we get the full team together. We haven't had our full team together all season long, and we still managed to win games. So, I'm excited. I think that Reardon's been killing it behind the bench, and I think that once we get our full team together and they can put together the game plan that wins them games, we're going to be back to being dangerous.
Awesome. Now, one more thought on the Capitals. What, as Caps fans, they've struggled in the playoffs for a while there. What do you think was the key factor that turned around last season to get them over the hump?
So I'm glad that you asked that question. The biggest thing for me is that in past years in the playoffs, the Caps were playing the other team's game. They were capitalizing on other teams' mistakes rather than knowing what game plan they were going to do and executing it. So the power play obviously was huge, but we played physical, we played fast, and we played controlled. And we out-hit almost every single team that we played against. And I think that the physicality and the speed over anything was what had pushed us over that hump. To beat Pittsburgh and then to beat Tampa in 7, and then of course, only drop 1 to Vegas. So it was for me playing physical and playing fast because the skill is there. They've got an incredibly talented team. The physicality for me, I think, is what and smart physicality is what really transcended their game.
So your point was that they played their style of game and in the physical style of game much more different. So that's a good point. Everybody has a different perspective on that as well too. So it's a great point in that regards. Now let's go and talk about Darren as a person. Get to know you, girl, back here. Do some quick hitters here. Early bird or a late night owl?
Late night owl all day long.
Okay. Beer, wine, or alcohol, or all three?
I'd have to say beer.
Okay. All right. Pepsi or Coke?
Coke.
Rice or pasta?
Oh, I'm Italian. Pasta.
Pasta all the way.
All the way.
Now let's talk about Dan Ridings. Now you've taken over. You used to work for Best Buy, and just recently you've taken over a facility that I've been trying to work with for a long time. A great facility nearby the Rockwell Sportsplex. Total Hockey, is that correct?
Pure Hockey.
Okay,
Yeah,
Pure
they
Hockey,
actually they just got bought out. Yeah.
Yeah, Pure Hockey. So tell me about taking over Pure Hockey. You're the manager now. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I was a sales manager for Best Buy for 9 years. As a 31-year-old, I finally got my act together and made the decision to finish my degree.
Congratulations. What degree?
Business management. So with a minor in marketing. So I have a few credits to finish up my associates, and then I'm going to tear up University of Maryland, University College Online. Okay. Pure Hockey is a great company. I've been a patron of theirs since they opened 7 years ago, and I've known the manager for quite a while. And I went in there about a month and a half ago talking about, going back to school, needing something a little slower pace, but worried to leave Best Buy. And he said they had an assistant store manager spot open. And, I talked to the HR, the numbers were right. So it's a blast. I mean, I truly forgot what it was like to enjoy going to work every day.
Yes.
I was a preschool teacher for 4 years earlier in my life, and I'm the oldest of 10 cousins. So
wow.
I've got a big family, and, being able to just mess around with little kids all day, getting them fitted for skates, sizing their sticks, it's awesome. And I come home fulfilled, energized, rather than just, beat down from a hard day. So I'm incredibly happy, and we're definitely going to make sure that we put together some partnerships, for whatever you need.
Oh, absolutely.
Jerseys, pucks, the whole nine.
We would love to give you draw more business towards your company as well too. That's great to hear. Now, obviously, it must be great that you work in a field, a sport you love, right? It makes it so much easier when you go to work. It's all about hockey, right? So it's something you enjoy.
Absolutely.
Now, one last question we have for you here, in terms of your particular goals and well, too. You said to mention the fact that you're Italian. I need to know what your favorite Italian food is.
So, my favorite Italian food, and it's a pretty generic one, but when my grandmother used to make it, now when my mom makes it, and I'm not prejudiced, I'll order it anywhere. It's chicken parmesan.
Oh, really? Okay.
Anybody that knows me, you have those friends that order chicken tenders anywhere they go. Anyone that knows me, if there's chicken parm on the menu, more than likely I'm going to order it. I'm a big guy. I'm not scared to eat.
Well, I'm going to add your advice. If I want to go to an Italian restaurant, tell me what the best place to go to in the DMV area.
All right. So here in Frederick, there is a great Italian restaurant called Manilu, over near the Westview movie theater. It was actually rated one of the best Italian restaurants in the state of Maryland. And then there's another great one called Bella Trattoria, but one of the chains that's the best is called Maggiano's. That's one of the best Italian chain restaurants there is.
Awesome. Well, Dan, thank you for joining us. Maybe go out and make a trip out there to Frederick and check that out as well, too. Thank you for playing with us as well, too, and we'll look forward to the new season coming up here with the Roughriders.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Dan. And before you go, folks, thanks for joining us as well, too, here on the DCHL podcast. Roll with it. We'll see you next time and next week here in the RHL podcast. Roll with it. Take care, folks.